Hello, good afternoon. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I hope you're having a good morning, and I wonder if you saw the message I have sent you an hour and a half ago after from my journey to North Berwick about that live video. So that live video is, like I said, about the topic that I have called giving the cards away and being given the cards and playing the game of life. So that is, of course, a metaphor. We can use many different ways of describing our experience of being on earth, which is actually, in my view, very ordinary and at the same time very special. And sometimes it takes us time to realize that this life is gonna be over. So we have sometimes lots of stress in our life because we're trying to ensure that we have the best of it for ourselves and for our close ones. We sometimes find it difficult to find the way to relax and at the same time being very efficient in our actions, to think things through at the best of your abilities and at the same time find that place in ourselves that is actually relaxed and is able to let go of the expectation of the result of your action. This is quite a spiritual stuff, isn't it? But actually it's needed for us to appreciate our life the way it is, to appreciate also the struggle and the difficulty, and not to give up at the times when we feel like we're failing. I think for all of us, doesn't matter how we think of ourselves and our lives as, full of joy or full of sadness. After all, the human experience is similar to a degree to every person, because everyone knows a taste of success and of failure to a degree. If you think this through, you can even write this down for yourself. Times in your life, since you were little, since you were a child, up to the point that you are now, however old you are, times when you felt like you have achieved something important to you. What was happening? Were you congratulated? Was it celebrated in your family? Did you celebrate it by yourself? Did you notice when you were successful at something? What led you to that success? Was it an easy journey? Was it a difficult one? How did you achieve that goal? How many years it took? Months? Weeks? Was it something that you really wanted to do, or did you do it because, for example, you thought that that's the thing that you should be doing because everyone does it, or this is how life is, right? And it has its demands, and you need to follow the, in a way, cultural script for who you should be as a woman, as a man, as a person from this particular background that you come from this particular region and country and this particular times, and you want, for example, to be a good man or a good woman, a good mother or a good father, a good wife or a good husband or a good daughter, a good son, and so on and so on. There are cultural scripts for each of that role. A good worker, a good employer, like many different roles that we play in our lives. There are cultural, or parent, good mother, good father, right? There are cultural scripts for each of that role, but I think what really matters here is how you feel, what are your values, what is your understanding of the part that you play in the life of other people. Why are you here? What do you want to do with that precious gift that one day is gonna be over? For each human being, for each thing alive, plant, animal, even earth, everything that you can see is gonna be over. And depending on your age and health status, your level of fitness and health, you might have those thoughts, right? How much do I have left? And what do I want to do with it? And how well I play my role? Who do I want to be? Who I am? And am I proud of myself? Now, coming back to the exercise I gave you a second ago about success and failure, apart from writing down the successes that you have achieved, and you don't have to write all of them, you can start just with one. You can choose to take as much time as you wish with that task. You can Think about the times when you were a child, when you were a young woman or a young man, a person in middle age, or maybe a person in advanced age, or however you describe yourself, however you define yourself, you see yourself. At different stages of your life, what were the successes and failures that you perceived as that? How were you noticed and celebrated in your family? Or perhaps some difficult events happened or important events to you? Because success is not always something that comes with the feeling of joy and pride. Sometimes it comes with a feeling of disappointment as well. So it might be surprising that some people might go through many years of being very successful, for example, financially, and then, for example, in their 50s, decide to let go of everything and decide they want to do something else with their life, and wondering if they haven't missed something. If they, for example, dedicated most of the time to raising up children, like many women do, or dedicating that time to their career, to sustain their family and their children, like many men do. That's the stereotypes about our life paths, but that's how often it is, right? And for example, your children grow up and you realize that, okay, and where's my life and who I am, and did I use that time in the right way? Or maybe more personal example, for example, with children, yeah? You decide to have children or not. And how many children? And at which stage of your life? And you then looking back and wondering, was it a right choice at that time not to have, for example, a child, right? Did I do the right thing? Also facing with honesty the feelings around the choices that you have made, around family choices, career choices, education choices, health choices, how you took care of your health, both physical and mental health. Basically life choices, and how do you perceive major events in your life? Was it a failure or was it a success? And can you see them as both? My friend, who sadly has passed away when he was very young, I was also very young when I had him as my friend, he said to me one day a sentence that I've always remembered since, that ambivalence is a sign of intelligence. It's a very beautiful sentence, but what does it mean? It means that you can have many different feelings around every single thing in your life. So there can be something that's perceived as a success in life by your environment, by your culture, for example, getting married, or can be perceived as a failure by your environment, by your family and your culture, for example, getting divorced. But to you personally, looking from the perspective, you can have a completely different view on both, and what is more, most likely you will have many different feelings around both. So when you look at your successes and failures, both in your private and professional life, try to be open-minded and gentle with yourself and honest with yourself, because you don't have to share that with anybody. You can think about it. It's better actually to write this down and see what these events actually mattered to you and how they contributed to your self-development, to becoming who you are today, and really congratulating yourself here for everything you've been through, from every single thing that you've managed to achieve or you've attempted to achieve and you actually failed. Because as you're here, your life is not over yet, which means that things can still happen, they can still change, and most likely they will not change just by themselves, although of course to a degree that happens to all of us as well. Changes are a natural part of life, but in your striving for success, to achieve more, to see more, to give more to your children, to your close ones, to yourself, you are always growing and learning, and your journey is not over yet because you're still here. So every single thing that you can even see as something where you failed and weren't good enough has contributed to your learning. And you can draw from those experiences not to make the same mistakes, but also look what you've learned from them on the personal level, how strong you are, how wise you are, how you've managed through a time of difficulty. And we are all learning. which means that there are things that we perhaps regret that we've done or we haven't done. It's normal. It's not wrong to regret something either. It's important to allow ourselves the feeling of grief or anger or disappointment with ourselves, with others, not to react those feelings and act them out on others, but to actually allow ourselves to go through those feelings. Because once we allow ourselves to feel and think about ourselves, about our life, about what we've done, what we would like to do, what we haven't managed to do, what we would like to reach towards, as we allow for all the thoughts and feelings around us, we found in ourselves more space and more capacity for a calm, steady, relaxed, focused approach. And then we can direct our energy, life force. As human beings, we are capable of doing it, making an intention, directing our actions to find their fruit, find their result, find their outcome. Sometimes that might take many, many years. And what is most, I think, beautiful, amazing, and uplifting in the journey is that there is always space for not knowing how things will go. And we can look at it from the perspective of risk, from the perspective, of sometimes failure, from the perspective of fear, of some kind of difficulty in ourselves, anxiety around that. When we look at, we don't have things under control. But that is actually, after all, a good thing, because not everything is down to us, and not having things under control can help us to open up more towards what are the resources in our local community, in our bigger communities, even global communities, that we can draw from, how we can connect with others, how, where we cannot do something on our own, others can do for us. And this is the way to connect. That connection is important both in private and professional life. To leave that space that I don't have things under control. Actually, nobody has them. Still, I can do my best and allow for that era that is uncertain. There is, after all, nothing certain in life. For example, my friend recently had an accident. He was meant to go just for a nice evening out, and he had an accident, and thanks God he's okay. But he never planned to take time off sick next week and have a few months of rehabilitation. And these things happen in life as well. Or a different example, becoming pregnant unexpectedly. You didn't plan a child at that time of your life, right? Or also another example. Some people go through a failure in their professional life. They're losing a job and things go out of the direction that they thought they will. And there is time of difficulty that might last quite for a long time. And you never know when things turn and twist, how will you actually respond to that? Will you find in yourself strength to persevere, to be flexible, to be open-minded, to actually bend a little bit, like in this Buddhist saying, like a grass bends when the wind comes, and that's how it survives. There is a Buddhist saying about big trees being fallen by the hurricane, but not the grass, because grass is flexible. That flexibility comes from, I think, being humble and knowing that we are in the bigger scale of things quite small. That allows us to find that space of openness in ourselves, so that the space that is relaxed, not everything is down to me. Having said that, I must say that in my experience, a very important part of playing that game of life, giving the cards, receiving the cards, enjoying the game, not being caught up in that game, is finding space in yourself for every feeling and thought that arises. That space is being at a little bit of a distance at all times to everything that happens and what you do. That little distance comes from knowing, in my view, that things will not be the same forever, because one day we will not be here, we will die. when we really realize that we will not be here one day, we can look at every single thing, every single moment that happens in our lives, and that we do, that we choose, that we persevere to continue striving for, and we make it happen. We can still not be caught up in that game of losing and achieving, being successful and failing, being a good person and a bad person. That's also a very, very harsh judgment that stops us from appreciating life the way it is. And when I say about appreciating life the way it is, I really mean taking an active part in it, finding that place of courage to dare, to reach for more, but not being caught up in the idea that you should be this and that you should have that amount of money on your account, you should never have that difficulty, and you should have achieved this and this and this by that stage in your life that you are at. I don't think this is healthy. I think more healthy is to know who you are, what you've been through, where you come from, where you're going, and playing very wise with your cards. And like I said, sometimes it is you who's the boss and gives the cards away. Sometimes it is that life gives you the cards to other people and said, this way you're not gonna go. Today you have an accident. Today you're becoming pregnant. Today you're losing a child. Today you're getting married. I mean, usually we're not getting married without knowing about it. Although I heard stories where people are getting married within a week of getting to know that person. But okay, I'm not saying that you should do it. But you see, what I'm trying to say is that life sometimes tells you, okay, you're falling in love, and your idea is not, your life is not going the way you want it. You're getting pregnant, you're having a child, you're moving to another continent. Or the opposite. You had an idea that you're gonna have a family. Many young people have that cultural idea of how their life should be like. And they never take into consideration that life is not like, choosing every single thing that it should happen at that time in your life. That when you're 26, you should have that and this and that. And when you're 31, you should have this and that and that. And you're 44, this and that and that. If you're thinking this way, then think what you're going to have when you are 90. Some people have worked very hard for everything they have achieved in their life. They're getting very old, and their family, despite their will, is forcing them to go to the care home. And they're not even having a choice to where they're gonna be spending the last time of their life and how they're gonna die and when. I mean, that's also part of life. It also can go completely out of your control. I think people who've been through some difficult health problems and they've emerged on the other side of it, or people who've been through a major crisis in life, or major loss, major difficult event, or people who are going through that, are the people who can, in a way, become very lucky because they wake up to that reality that life is only once. And when you wake up to that reality that life is only once, you start playing that game in a completely different manner than before. So that thing that you could have maybe seen as something like an end of everything, right? This is the end of your life. This is a disaster. This is a catastrophe. I'm depressed. I have lost this and that and that. Maybe you've lost a person. Maybe you've lost a child. Maybe you've lost part of yourself. Maybe you've lost health. Maybe you've lost your partner. Maybe you've lost your home. Maybe you've lost your job. I don't know what it was. But if you're feeling that that's the end, without denying how you feel and think about it, look around. It's not the end. You're still here. And chances are that that very difficult event will, over time, bring a fruit of your life that you can never expect as you're going through it. Because like I said, there is a bigger scope of things that we are part of. And that is actually a beautiful way of life. And realizing that we are small in a bigger whole of things, which I don't mean by this just this world, but even the times and how old the earth is. And we have only that amount of time here to appreciate that we are part of something much vaster. Every each of us. Nobody excluded from that. Thank you for being here today. And I think that's everything for now. Please remember there is a workshop coming. My first workshop in Edinburgh at the end of this month in Stockbridge. Group workshop. We're gonna be dancing, we're gonna be talking, we're gonna be dancing in silence and with music. For a very small group, 5 to 15 people, please send me an email if you're interested in this. I'm still waiting for a confirmation from my venue about the exact time. I'm thinking about 27th, but it's not confirmed yet. It's a holiday time, and things are going a bit more slowly at that time of the year, which is nice. But for us, for people who like to take part in that workshop, means that the date is not confirmed yet. Yet I'm gonna be making everything I can so it can happen at the end of July. The bookings should open still this week and will be open for around, I think, 7 days. It's very affordable, £70 per person for 3 hours work with me in the evening in a small setting, small group in Stockbridge in Edinburgh, and I'm planning to be in Paris and in southern France this summer. Hopefully I'll manage before the end of that month. That was the plan. Things are going a little bit out of control, but that's the usual thing in life. I will update you if I'll be there and you'd like to see me in person. The current cost for one-to-one sessions with me are £200 per hour, and online sessions is £140 per hour of work with me. I'm really looking forward to working with you this year. Agnes Yasmin, thank you for being here and have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.